So again, welcome everybody to our latest tour retrospective program. I know there's a lot of you who were here last week for Northern California. A lot of you have been here for a bunch of these. We've done something like 13 or 14 of these, maybe 15, somewhere in there. I'm Jeremy D'Entremont. I'm the host of the US Lighthouse Society's podcast, Lighthearted. And of course, you probably all are familiar with Jeff Gales, who's with us, and Augie, the official Boston Terrier of the US Lighthouse Society. Jeff, again, is the executive director of the US Lighthouse Society. Hi, Jeff. Can you hear me?
Yeah, he's on mute.
Jeff. He's muted because of Augie there.
Okay,
so
I unmuted. Hello, everybody.
Yeah. So Jeff will help with the question and answer portion of the program after Margie's presentation. When we get to that, most of you know the drill already. You've been to these before, but you can ask questions using the chat feature in Zoom. I see there's about 8 messages already on there, so a lot of you know how that works. Probably most of you. You can click on chat, and you can send a message to everybody in the room or to a specific person, and when we get to the questions and answers, you can ask questions that way. But we'll also take some questions verbally. We'll explain that when we get to it. So I usually do an introduction where I talk about all the great things about the US Lighthouse Society's tours. I'll keep it fairly short this time because a lot of you have heard me do that many times. But I do just want to say that the domestic and international tours are part of what make the US Lighthouse Society so special. I urge you very strongly to go to uslhs.org to read more about what those tours are all about and tours that are coming up. So the tour we are talking about today is the Southern California and Northern Baja tour in the spring of 2019. And of course, a lot of you were here again for Northern California last week. So we're going to continue down the California coast and do some of Mexico, Northern Baja as well. I know from personal experience, there are a lot of great lighthouses in California from the Central Coast down to San Diego. I talked about the beginnings of lighthouses in California last week, so I won't repeat that. But I thought I'd maybe mention a couple of interesting California facts. I was looking for those online. You probably all know the state nickname of California is the Golden State after the gold rush. But you might not know that the official fossil of California is the saber-toothed cat. I thought that was pretty cool. The official folk dance is square dancing, and the official reptile of California is the desert tortoise. There will be a quiz, so I hope you're paying attention. So I've never personally been to Mexico. I'm really looking forward to hearing about that part of the tour. Let me introduce our tour guide for today, Margie Rowland. Margie is retired from Puget Sound Naval Shipyard, where she was superintendent of electricians and electronics and project manager. She and her husband, Jerry, who was lurking around there a little while ago, you might see him as our event goes on. There he is. I knew he was there somewhere. She and her husband, Jerry, have been leading and planning tours for the US Lighthouse Society for about 9 years now. And I think that's about all I need to tell you right now. So I'm going to turn things over to Margie. Thanks, Margie. Go ahead.
Hello, everybody. Let's see. I'm going to share my screen. And get on to the slideshow. I want to tell you that this was more exciting than I thought it was going to be because a lot of unexpected things happened. And as Jerry already said, one of them was that he kind of got sick through this tour, and I'll talk about that as we go through. But the tour was from 23 March to 4 April. And this was the tour map, and we saw approximately 24 lighthouses and a few more than that. And there were a lot of faux lighthouses on this particular tour. Everybody loves their lighthouses, so they make a replica. But we started out in San Francisco area at the embassy, Burlingame Embassy. Beautiful hotel. And this little area right in here is where we had our dinner, our welcome dinner. And it was beautiful and really good food. So we had a great start to the tour. The next morning, our very first lighthouse was Point Montera Lighthouse. And as you can see, it's in a little rough shape. And it has a lot of history to it from shipwrecks, as most of California lighthouses do. Lots of shipwrecks. It was built in 1875, and it had a 4th order Fresnel lens in it at that time. It's 30 feet high, and that helps with the shortness helps with being able to see it through the fog. If you go to visit here, it is now a hostel, and the parking is limited, but the homes there, they did not destroy them, and they're still in the Victorian age or era, and very nice looking. But as I said, it serves as a hostel, so you have to make sure that if you visit, you let them know. Okay, then we went on to number 2 lighthouse, Pigeon Point. And I was surprised to learn from this gentleman here, docent, that the lighthouse and the point was named after a ship that crashed there in 1853. It was called the Carrier Pigeon. And so the government decided, well, we need to have at Pigeon Point now a lighthouse and a steam whistle. Steam whistle was installed first, and then the tower was installed in November of 1872. It's a 115-foot tower, and so it shares the honor of being the tallest lighthouse on the West Coast with Point Arena, which you probably talked about last week. It had a 1st order Fresnel lens, and all the keepers that were there liked to be tour guides, and one of them told them that when he gave them a tour up to the lantern room, that if you stand inside the huge lens, that if he pulled back the curtain, the sun would melt the glass and then the human flesh. Now, of course, they didn't know any different, so they believed him. But the keepers really liked to entertain the tourists that went through. In 1960, the original building of that was for the keepers was destroyed, but they built these 4 ranch-style houses that are there today, and they are used as rentals. In 1972, a rotating beacon was placed outside the lantern room, and the Fresnel lens was deactivated. In December 2001, a large chunk of the brick and iron cornice, which is this in here, fell to the ground, which caused them to close the lighthouse, and you can see they've got fence all around it now, so there's no access into the lighthouse anymore. In 2005, the state of California took over ownership of the lighthouse, and they moved the 1st order Fresnel lens into their fog building. There it is. Beautiful, and they will turn it, light it for you. It's really a magnificent lens. There is a plan to renovate the lighthouse and replace the lens in the tower, but it costs $11 million. Just like most lighthouse projects, they're pretty spendy. But we really enjoyed our stay there. The people were very nice and informative, and a great gift shop, which our groups always like.
Margie, could I interject something real quick?
Sure.
Just from the last presentation, we talked about Point Arena, and you mentioned Point Arena just now. If you're interested in what Point Arena looked like before it was replaced with the poured concrete reinforced steel tower that's there now, it was an exact duplicate of Pigeon Point. They were the same design.
Same design, so it looked like that.
Yep, looked just like that, right? The original Point Arena.
But now it has the yeah, the look it has today. Okay, so we moved on. We got back in the bus and we moved on down to lighthouse number 3, the Santa Cruz Lighthouse. Now, this is not the original lighthouse. The original lighthouse was a 2-story wooden structure with a brick foundation, a pitched roof, with a square light tower at the top, very common for the California coast design. And it had a 5th order Fresnel lens, which was replaced in 1913 with a 4th order, but it was very close to the cliff. So they had to move it back, or in fact, in February 1941, it was deactivated and put up for bid. They did put the lens on a wooden framework that was 200 feet closer to the water, but they put the lighthouse itself up for bid. The guy who got the bid, rather than moving the lighthouse, tore it apart and used the wood for something else. This particular lighthouse was built by the parents of Mark Abbott, who drowned while surfing. He was only 18 years old, and they had recently put a life insurance policy on him. So they took the life insurance money and they built this lighthouse. And it is now a surfing museum. The surfers' ashes are buried at the bottom of the lighthouse. It's in the middle of a large surfing community, so you can stand and watch surfers as you're there. But it's also very hard to find parking. I mean, we were there in March and it was still pretty crowded. But it was an interesting light to see with a little history on it. But next we went to number 4, which was the Santa Cruz Breakwater Lighthouse. You can see it was a little walk to get to it. And it has quite a history in the fact that at the beginning, in 1964, a box light structure was there with just a light on the top. Then they put a cylinder there that they called the water heater from 1996 to 1999. And that was replaced with a simple little pipe structure. But everybody in the community, this is the entrance into Santa Cruz Harbor, said, we want to have a real lighthouse. So they started raising funds. And one of the major donors was a Charles Walton. And he gave money to remember his brother Derek, who was a merchant marine and lost at sea during World War II. So they dedicated the lighthouse to Derek, and the locals call it the Walton Lighthouse. It was completed in 2002. It is constructed to withstand 40 million pounds of wave energy. It's 41.5 feet tall, but the walls are 4.5 feet thick. It was great to see the waves crashing on the rocks around it. And they did. We got a little wet out there, but it was quite a sight. We could not enter it, but it was a good visit and a nice little walk. Here's where we stayed that night. And I know that normally we don't show hotels where we stay, but we had some very interesting hotels in this tour. The Victoria Inn Best Western in Monterey was really a nice hotel. They were very nice to us, and couldn't say enough nice about it. Next morning, we went on to number 5. Number 5, Point Pinos Lighthouse. And when we got there, one of the main docents, Nancy McDowell, met us, talked about the lighthouse. And then after we got our talk, we got to go inside. But this is right next to a golf course, and it's one of the most picturesque lighthouses. See how pretty it is. We all got to climb up to the top into the lantern room a little bit at a time, a few people at a time, and walk around the grounds. And us who love to take pictures, we couldn't get enough of them. It's a 2-story with a tower, as you can see. It was scheduled to have a second order Fresnel lens, but it didn't arrive in time, so they took this third order that was scheduled for Fort Point Lighthouse, and that's what's there now. But the lighthouse suffered some damage during the Great San Francisco earthquake of 1906. The brick tower and lantern room and the lens were removed, and the upper 5 feet of the tower was torn down and rebuilt. So it's all been rebuilt since then, of course. Very interesting story of the women who were lighthouse keepers in this lighthouse. Charlotte Layton got the job after her husband died, which he received in a military war he was in down in Florida. She served from 1855 until 1860 when her second husband took over the job. And then the one that is the most famous and popular is Emily Fish. She served from 1892 to 1912, and she was quite a hostess. She loved to have people come in, and that's a reputation that lighthouse got, was it was wonderful to visit. It was automated in 1975, and it was licensed to the city of Pacific Grove, which it does open the lighthouse. And through the Pacific Grove Natural History Museum and the Adobe chapter of the Questers, it's been restored inside with furnishings of the period of Emily Fish. It has a very homey atmosphere. And more pictures. We couldn't stop taking pictures of it. It really is a very photographic lighthouse. And we had a very pleasant stay there. They have lenses in the basement area and around in the lobby. Different lenses. So it's a great place to visit if you ever get a chance. Then we went on down the coast to number 6, Point Sur. Unfortunately, Point Sur was closed. They were replacing the bridge on the main road that went up to the lighthouse. The group that was there, that managed the lighthouse, said, well, you know what, just south of this, we have just taken over custody of a naval facility, a closed facility, and we're wanting to have people start touring it and giving us ideas of what the future would be. So we did that. We went to that naval facility, but even from the naval facility, we could not see the lighthouse. So one of the most important things about this tour was we had a wonderful bus driver named Juan, and we told him, hey, Juan, can you drive north for us and turn around so we can at least get a shot of the lighthouse from the road? And he did that. Great bus driver, did a great U-turn on Highway 101 and parked alongside of the road, and we all got out and got our picture. Here's a picture that we got. Point Sur was automated in 1972, and the lens was removed in 1978 and put into storage. And they said, well, we're not going to put it back until there's some seismic upgrades that need to be made to it. But I know they have been making a lot of improvements to this lighthouse. As you can see, that the road is one of them that they were improving. So I don't know, maybe Jeff knows if if the lens ever made it back into the tower, but I know it's scheduled. Say again?
I'm not sure. I don't think so.
Yeah, but I know it's scheduled to go in there though. So that was our visit to Point Sur. Then we went into Cambria, and in Cambria is the Piedras Blancas lens, the first order lens that used to be on the Piedras Blancas Lighthouse. It's, as you can see, it's enclosed in a little house of its own. And the group, the Lions group that took over the care of this lens, built this enclosure. And previously to us getting there, they had just cleaned it. And it's just gorgeous. They opened the enclosure for us so we could get a very close look. And there is how close we got. Just a beautiful lens. First orders. So that evening, we stayed at a hotel that I thought was wonderful called the Fogcatcher Inn, right outside of Cambria. And across the street from this inn is the ocean, and had a walkway, a little walk all the way around, long walkway. And most of us were saying, man, I wish we had spent more time here, because it was very nice atmosphere. It was a beautiful day too. But the next morning we had to get going, and we went to Lighthouse number 7, Piedras Blancas. And there it is, without its top. It was completed in February 15th, 1875, with its first order Fresnel lens. But in December 1948, there was a major earthquake that damaged the upper portions of the tower, so they were all removed, including the lens. And you saw where it was moved to, and it was taken care of by the Cambria Lions Club. And also the Friends of the Piedras Blancas Lighthouse helped build that lantern room that was in there. In 1948, the Coast Guard assumed ownership of the lens. And the Bureau of Land, or this year, 2021, the Coast Guard assumed ownership of the lens again. So the Lions Club no longer has ownership of it. The Bureau of Land Management has expressed interest in getting the control of the lens, and I'm sure they have planned to build a tower and put the lens back up on its lighthouse. We were greeted by Jody, and she had a lot of docents there to help us through the entire tour. And they do have a canned tour that they present, which was nice. They have a fog building that they've restored. But they also take you around on the trails to see all of the different flora, plant life around there. So be prepared if you go there. They've got their canned tour. Of course, us being lighthouse nuts, all we wanted was just to get to the lighthouse. But not all of us could fit in there, but we all managed to get in there. And it was a good tour. They do not let you climb the stairs, and for liability reasons. They do have houses, I think you can see them right there, that they built for the Coast Guard, and they do rent those out. So the plan is eventually to restore this to its original condition. And they do have a lot of support for that. Right south of this lighthouse there's another view of it, is a sea lion colony. We had to stop and see it because there aren't that many around in this area that with this many numbers. And as soon as we got off the bus, we could hear them barking, and we went there and they just were laying around on the beach, having a great time. It was a very nice, pleasant stop. Did you have something you wanted to say about that, Jeremy?
I just before you said that, I posted in the chat about the elephant seal rookery. I walked along there and saw them up close. It was pretty amazing. I was there in molting season, and man, were they loud, and they smelled pretty loud too. So
yes,
it's quite a scene. But just a fine point, they're actually elephant seals, which are quite a bit bigger than sea lions. And sea lions are loud enough, but I think the elephant seals are even louder.
Thank you for that. I was told sea lion, but elephant seal is bigger, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was just a quick stop for us because we had to move on. We had reservations and plans to see Hearst Castle. So we took our time going up there. And of course, many beautiful things to see. Took our pictures and we had lunch there. And then we moved on down the coast to number 8, San Luis Lighthouse. There it is. It's in great shape. How you can get to this lighthouse, you can't drive to it. You have to make arrangements because they have a van that shuttles you up this very narrow road, and they can't have a whole lot of traffic on this road. So they met us at a designated spot at the bottom, and we piled in the vans. They drove us up here, and we got to tour the house. We got to go in the lantern room. The lens, a 4th order lens, is no longer there. This house was built and started operation in 1890. It was electrified in 1935. And the 4th order Fresnel lens was removed in 1969 and we were replaced with a beacon light. It was at that time on display at the San Luis Obispo Museum. But in 2010, the 120th anniversary of the lighthouse, they returned it to the lighthouse. And now, that's our bus driver, Juan, in the lantern room. I wanted to get a picture of him in there. But there's the 4th order lens in a fog signal building. And it's beautifully maintained. Very nice. They've got lots of displays in there that are very interesting. The steam whistles, etc. So that evening, we went on to this marvelous little hotel called the Apple Farm Inn. Great food, good lodging, and the manager was very nice. If you've ever seen the movie Destination Wedding, this is the destination for the wedding. I recognized it in the movie and was pretty excited that I knew exactly where this was. The manager was great to us, and the following morning, it was pouring. We thought we were going to have a real wet day. He was out there in the rain helping us load our luggage onto the bus. That was awesome. And waved goodbye to us as we went on to the next lighthouse, number 9. Now, this lighthouse is on the Vandenberg Air Force Base. And we talked to a public affairs person about getting access to go and see this. And we thought, okay, it's going to take some time to get through security, and it's going to take some time to get there. So we allowed an hour and a half to get there. Well, it took a little longer to get through security and it was a 45-minute drive on that base just to get to the dirt road that we had to walk on to get to this lighthouse. Now, originally, this was like most lighthouses. It was a house with a pitched roof and a tower on it, but it was demolished, and the original lighthouse was built in 1901. In 1967, they decided they didn't need it anymore. They raised all the structures, that they being the Coast Guard, and that's what's there today. This is Point Arguello Light, and it was a long check-in time and a long drive and walk to get there. I mean, it was about 1.5 miles down a dirt road, and some of us went, some of us didn't. I got about as far as I could see it, and I thought, okay, a light on a stick, I'm going to turn around. But it is a navigation light, and our people, some of them on the tour, really wanted to see this, so they got that opportunity. However, since it took a lot longer than we had anticipated, we were running late to get to our lunch, and we had a group of Coast Guard people meeting us there for the next lighthouse, number 10, Point Conception. There is Point Conception Lighthouse today. The original light was just like the old Point Loma Lighthouse up on top of a bluff. But just like the old Point Loma Lighthouse, it was too high for the fog. The boats couldn't see it. So that one was destroyed, and that one was built in 1856. And in 1875, they decided to build a new tower lower, and that one was completed in 1881. And they had a first order Fresnel lens in this. This concrete lighthouse was completed in 1911. The one that was built in 1881 didn't last. It was wood. The lens, the first order lens that was in it, was moved in 2012 to Santa Barbara Museum. This was automated in 1972, and they put, of course, a different type of light there. But this lighthouse is located in the Nature Conservancy property. And the only ones that are allowed to go on there, you have to get permission. And the Coast Guard still owns the lens, or the operation of the light that's there. And so the Coast Guard had to put us in vans and take us through the gates and arrive at the top of where the lighthouse keepers' houses were, and climb some stairs. Here's the stairs. There's the top where the lighthouse keepers' houses are. And there's the stairs going down to the lighthouse. These are the stairs to the top of the lighthouse. 180 steps. So, and they're not in the best of condition because nobody's maintaining this lighthouse. There you go. There's another view. Going back up. And I'm saying, do I really want to do this? But yeah, we had to get back. So it was quite an adventure to see this light. It's very hard for most people to go see Point Conception because of all the reasons I mentioned. It's on conservancy land. Only few people can access it. So it was a treat. It was a highlight of this tour. And we stopped at the Santa Barbara Museum, where the first order lens that was in Point Conception was on display. They opened the museum for us, just for us. We got to tour the museum. It was a great museum. But of course, the main attraction was the beautiful first order lens. And then after we left there, we went on to our, we stopped at Santa Barbara Light, number 11. Santa Barbara Light is located in a Navy housing area. I think it was Navy, right?
Yes.
Yeah, naval housing area. And we had to get a hold of a person that would come and open the gate for us so that we could access the grounds to see this light. And as you can see, it's changed, or it's just a rotating beacon on a square box. But again, not everybody gets to see it, so it was one of those things that we definitely wanted to include on this tour. And there's the hotel we stayed, and everybody had an oceanfront room. It was a wonderful hotel, and it's great that it was a wonderful hotel, because the next day, our number 12 lighthouse, which is out on Anacapa Island, the boat cruise was canceled due to high winds, and it was a very windy day. So everybody got to relax at that wonderful hotel for most of the morning. But in the afternoon, we went to number 13, Point Wainimi. Well, there's a picture of Anacapa Island that we didn't get to see. On the way to Point Wainimi, we got to see some full lighthouses in Oxnard. Again, there were many places that had faux, but this is one of them. This is another, the Fisherman's Wharf. And then on to Point Wainimi Lighthouse. This is Norm Bundick, and he's the one that made arrangements for us to drive the bus right up to the lighthouse. Normally, there's a parking area that you have to park at, and then you have to walk about half a mile to get to see the lighthouse, but you don't get access to it, you just see it. There is the original lighthouse, as you can see over here on the right, was built, and it looks very much like Point Furman Lighthouse, but they decided to enlarge the channel into the harbor in 1938, and the lighthouse was just too close to that channel, so they decided to move it, and they sold it at auction. Now, the records show that it was moved across the harbor and became the Wainimi Yacht Club. I don't know if that's still true, but the fourth order lens was removed and placed in storage. This new lighthouse that you see on the left was completed in 1940. In 2012, it was decided that they would not put the fourth order lens, or the fourth order lens that was now in this structure had to be retired, because they found a statement in the National Historic Lighthouse Preservation Act that active use of the Fresnel lenses is not conducive to long-term preservation. So now the lens, and you can see it back here in the back, is displayed in the main entry. And here's the old lens in the main entry, and this is what replaced it, new lens. And they call these pancake lenses, for obvious reasons.
They look like tires.
It looks like tires, yeah. It's a pretty effective light, I know that, but it's not near as glamorous as a Fresnel, my opinion.
Agreed.
And there's our group that was there. Now, you may not notice, but Jerry is not in the picture. This is the day that he spent all day at the hotel, not feeling very good. So we went without him. But we had a great visit. It was so nice to be able to have the bus right there. And then the next day, we went on to number 14, Point Pitente Lighthouse, or Vicente. And you notice that it looks like it's crooked, it's leaning. It's not. It's the slope of the land. I can get this, if you can see that. The slope of the land makes it look like it's leaning, but it is actually straight up and down. The point itself was named after Captain Vancouver's friend, Friar Vicente of Mission San Buenaventura. They put a fog signal there first in 1925, but the light didn't get lit until 1926, and it had a third order clamshell lens. During World War II, it was dimmed, and after it was put back in service, the neighbors started complaining about the flashing light. So they decided to paint an opaque white on the window panes so that it wouldn't flash towards the neighbors. What that did is it caused an illusion of a woman pacing the tower's walkway and gave rise to the legend of Lady of the Light at Point Vicente. Well, in 1955, they decided to make it a thicker paint, and the lady disappeared. So it definitely was an illusion. The station was automated in 1971, but is still home to the Coast Guard personnel, and they do have monthly openings to let people in to see the lighthouse and the fog signal building. They have a great display inside the fog signal building, not only of other types of lenses, but of some other movie paraphernalia. The lantern room has the diamond panels, which I think looks very nice. The lens was removed after being automated and is now on display at the Point Vicente Interpretive Center, which is right next door to the lighthouse. So there it is. And we were the first ones to see the lens on display. They had just put it on in its display area, and you can see they've cleaned it up beautifully. Very exciting to be the first group to see that lens. Well, after this and a little lunch break, we went on to number 15, Point Furman Lighthouse. And I always like the looks of this lighthouse. So cute. It has a great history. Captain Vancouver named it for Father Furman Francisco de Loren. And the funny thing about that is Father Furman, he didn't like living in California, but now his name is permanently attached to California with this lighthouse. It was first lit December 15th, 1874. It had a fourth order Fresnel lens at that time. And the nice thing about this little lighthouse is it had women as keepers. The first keepers were women, Mary L. Smith and her sister Ella. But they weren't the only sisters. There was Thelma Austin and her sister Juanita, who, after their parents died, maintained the light until it was deactivated in 1941. During World War II, the tower was removed and a lookout was built there, and there are some pictures of just a square box on top of that tower, and it was affectionately called the chicken coop, because that's kind of what it looked like. After the war, a light on a pole located on the bluff was used. But in 1972, the Coast Guard wanted to destroy the lighthouse, but the locals came to the rescue, had it put on the National Register of Historic Places, and the funds were raised to restore the lantern room, the building, and it was rededicated November 2nd, 1974. And in 2002, they did another makeover. As with all buildings, it needs continual maintenance. But it is the crown jewel of Point Furman Park. It is in a park. And it's open to visitors. We got to climb up to the tower a few at a time. The fourth order lens kind of disappeared. Nobody really knew what happened to it, but somebody finally said, there is a real estate office in Malibu that has this fourth order lens on display. So they talked to the guy and said, we think that's the lens that belongs to Point Furman. And he wouldn't agree. Well, the Coast Guard Auxiliary got involved, and they did a lot of thorough research, and they determined, sure enough, that was Point Furman's fourth order lens. And it is now on display inside the lighthouse building. So you can see it there. In 2015, the lighthouse ownership was given to the city of Los Angeles. And the people who maintain it is the Point Furman Lighthouse and Point Furman Lighthouse Keepers and the Point Furman Historical Society. And a group of them met us there. And there's the group. And some of them were dressed in period costumes, some not, but they were very gracious. We really enjoyed our visit there.
And in addition to the Los Angeles Parks people, one of our longtime members, Mary Lou, who's on this call now, she's one of their main volunteers, and she's been with the Society for many years and gone on a million tours with us. So thanks, Mary Lou, for all your help getting us.
Yes, absolutely. And
Thank you, Jeff. I mentioned Jeff went with us to get the lens back in the day.
Yep. That's a great story. I love that
Actually,
story.
I was there also, Mary Lou.
Eve,
Yes,
Edmund?
Oh, it's me, Eve.
Yeah.
there's an episode of Fuel Hauser. Oh my God. There's an episode of Fuel Hauser that follows the lens transfer from the real estate office to Point Furman, if you're interested.
Huh.
Right. Yeah, that was a great program. He did a great job. And Mary Lou is an amazing volunteer. She's a leader. She's the head of the volunteers, and she does it. Mary Lou, you're fantastic.
Who's that?
It's Eve.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, they were a great group. They really helped make the tour to this lighthouse a wonderful experience. And from the grounds of Point Furman, you could see the Los Angeles Harbor Lighthouse. That's a long shot of the lighthouse. We did not make any arrangements to see it. We knew it was going to be hard to get a boat to go out there and see it, and it would have been just a drive-by. And this was not a bad view of it from the grounds of Point Furman. On to Long Beach and a big hotel. We stayed there. It was very nice to us. And they have faux lighthouses too. This is the Lions Rainbow Lighthouse. You can see why they call it that. This is what it looks like at night. And that's what it's like on the day. It's inside of a park type setting. Has a lot of interpretive plates here on the bottom. And the Lions did build this for the blind to raise money or get attention for them. Also is the Parker's Lighthouse, which is right across the bay from the Lions Lighthouse. Again, these are faux lighthouses. This one is a real lighthouse. This is the Long Beach Harbor Lighthouse, which we could not see from where we were. But I wanted to make it clear that this is an actual, the lighthouse for Long Beach Harbor. Next day, San Juan Capistrano. We made sure we had a visit there to this historic place. And we all got our little headphones and got to walk around and get history of the San Juan Capistrano mission. Then that evening, we arranged for a hot air balloon ride. And you can see we got the balloon with the skull and crossbones. Not sure if that was indicative of what was to come, but we did have a good time on it. But getting into the baskets was quite a chore. You can see they're quite deep, and they do have little slots on the side. You can see these slots where you can put your feet and get in, but it isn't that easy. Here's Tom and Darlene Chisholm trying to get in with the pilot. This is our pilot. And Tom made it in, but Darlene needed a little more help. So it wasn't that easy to get into those baskets. But once we got in there, the view was beautiful. The landing was rough. I've been on a lot of hot air balloons, but this one was very memorable in the fact that the field that we were supposed to land in, he missed, and we went down a slope almost into a road. So then he raised us up again, and we went into the field. This is the field, but the basket drug a long ways before it finally stopped. Yes, very memorable. And here's the pilot trying to explain to us exactly what happened on the landing. But as they say, any landing you can walk away from is good. So then on to San Diego, and that's the hotel we stayed at right there. And that again, right across the street this way is the bay, and this is the inlet for the marina. Another lighthouse, but is actually a navigation aid, and it's just down the road from the hotel that we stayed at. Ham's Restaurant Light. It's not a like a Fresnel or anything like that, but it is considered an aid to navigation. Next day, we got on a boat ride to Coronado Island, and the pilot told us that this particular buoy with a light is very important because it's the #1 San Diego light, which tells everybody that you are now entering the San Diego harbor. So we all got our shot of that. And this is Isla Coronado. That's the island we went to. There's 3 lighthouses on it. This is South Light, and it is still active up on a high cliff. And there's a bunch of seals down at the bottom of this. This one is Norte #2, and it is right on the top of the island, and it is active. And this is Norte #1, which is down on the north side, down close to the water, and is not active anymore. So we got a chance to go out and see those lighthouses. The pilot that took us there thought we were crazy just to go out and see these lighthouses. But yeah, we're lighthouse nuts. This is what, for us, was the new Point Loma Lighthouse. As you can see, with the white shrouding back here, the new Point Loma Lighthouse was totally covered and being repaired, being renovated, restored. So this was it. This is what they put out there to replace it. So as a result, we never went there because we saw from the water what the lighthouse looks like with a couple of easy chairs. The pilot decided to take us by Tijuana on the way home, and so we got to see the Tijuana Lighthouse from the water, which was a pleasant surprise. And you can see the wall. That's the Mexican wall. Then over here is the American wall. So there's two walls between Tijuana and the United States. All right, the next day was the border crossing. Our bus driver, I can't say enough about him. He had this all figured out. He drove the bus down a little close to the border. I'm going to back up a little bit because we told our group, hey, you don't want to take all your luggage down to Mexico. So the hotel we were staying at let us store some luggage. So everybody compacted into a smaller amount of luggage. When we got in the morning, when we got to our spot where the bus driver made arrangements, the luggage went into a van, all of our luggage, except our carry-on. And then our group went into two different vans. We did not go to the Tijuana border crossing, which is a zoo. We went to San Ysidro border crossing, which was very calm. We walked in to a building. They asked the standard questions. Why are you here? How long you're going to stay? And back on the bus. And then the three vans drove to a spot in Mexico where a bus was waiting for us, and we transferred our luggage into that bus and boarded it and on our way to Tijuana. It went very smoothly, a lot different than we had anticipated, thanks to our bus driver. So we are on our way to number 19, lighthouse number 19, Tijuana Lighthouse. So we got to see it up close. And I will tell you a little story. When we were there, Jerry and I witnessed a family, a husband, wife, and some kids, cut a hole in their fence, Tijuana fence, climb over, and were met by border guards on the other side, United States border guards, and were escorted off. Don't know what happened to them, but we just thought that was interesting that could even happen, but it did. So our bus driver says, well, I know a spot on the way, because our next stop is Ensenada. He says, I know a stop on the way that we can see the beautiful view. So we got there, and this is what we got. Low cloud cover. We couldn't see anything but that. It looked like cotton out there. But it was still pretty interesting. He did also make arrangements for us to stop at a very nice restaurant for lunch. A real Mexican restaurant, right? And also he said, you know, one of the lighthouses that you have on your list is really on the way down, and it makes more sense to stop now and see it. There is no road to it. You can only see it from the road, from the main road. So we said, okay, sure, go ahead. Well, it didn't work out near as well as Point Sur, because pulling over off the road there wasn't a big area to pull off. So he was blocking traffic, but we got out, got our pictures of San Miguel, but a truck going around us. Oh, this is one of the full lighthouses that we saw on the way. Excuse me. We got out and got our Punta San Miguel light. Got our picture of that. But when a truck went around us, and hit a road barrel. They were doing a lot of work on the road. In fact, we had a traffic stop of about an hour waiting to move because they were working on the road. But anyway, our bus driver went out and rescued the barrel that truck had flattened and put it back in place as best he could. But that's the kind of guy he was. This is where we stayed in just south of Ensenada, called Estero Beach Resort. And this picture here was taken from our room. So it was a beautiful resort. And they made accommodations for us for dinner and breakfasts. And it was a great place to stay. The next morning, we went to a blowhole, a very popular and famous blowhole called Laboufadore. And it did do as promised. It blew quite well. Every time the water came in, it shot a big gush of water up. So we spent some time there. And then we went on to Punta Moro. And this is Punta Moro. And this is another nice little story of the bus driver. It was down a road. We had a heck of a time finding it. But he managed to get the bus down this road and figure out where it was and get the bus turned around as well. This is actually the light today, and this is the light as it was, but they've moved it over here. They told us this was not operational, and this is the light. Doesn't look like a light, but that's what they said. So that's number 21. And then we got some bonus lights that we didn't have on our list of Punta Moro East and West Breakwater lights, which again, our bus driver got out and talked to the people who owned this marina there and asked if it was okay if we got out and took pictures of the breakwater lights. So we got our pictures. And then we went into Ensenada and we spent some time there and had lunch there. And luckily, most of the people speak enough English that we could make it through. We did have some people on this tour that spoke Spanish. We had a nice little stay in Ensenada for lunch. And then in Ensenada, as you're coming into it, this is their faux lighthouse, the Ensenada Lighthouse. This is the Ensenada Breakwater lights, which were on our list to see, and sure enough, there they are. This is as close as we could get, but again, our bus driver kind of violated the rules and pulled off to the side of the road so we could get it. And then back to the resort to spend the rest of the day relaxing and watching the sunset. And it did not disappoint. We had beautiful sunset. Beautiful. It just kept getting better and better. Darlene Chisholm noticed, hey, I think I see a lighthouse way out there on this island, which was this one. And, and sure enough, it is a light out there. It's called Islas Todos Santos Sur. Had we known about it, we probably would have arranged for a boat trip out to see it, get closer, but at least we could see it with a telephoto lens. So that was our trip down in Ensenada. The next day was back across the border. It didn't go quite as smoothly or as well as when we went down. We still used San Ysidro rather than Tijuana. But the bus could only get so far, and there was no vans to transfer in. So we had to walk to the border carrying our luggage and then go across with all the rest of the people. So it was a bit of a lineup to get through, but we did. And when we got to the other side, our bus was waiting for us. So it wasn't horrendous, but it was just a little more time consuming than when we went down. And we went to see Old Point Loma Lighthouse. And as I said, we did not go see New Point Loma because it was all covered in a shrouding. So this was our last lighthouse. And one of the people on the tour was one of the docents for this lighthouse. So she made sure that we got to enter the house and tour through all of the rooms of the house. We did not climb to the lantern room, but the side building over here has a lot of lenses that you can go and see. And it again was a nice talk. We had a nice speech from the docents of the Point Loma. And then that was it. That was our last lighthouse. Most of you know the history of Old Point Loma, that it's not operational anymore because it didn't serve the purpose for the fog. So the new Point Loma was built. I think that's pretty much it. If anybody's got any questions or...
Thank you, Margie. Thank you so much. That was interesting and entertaining as always. And I had some experience with a bunch of those lighthouses, the Southern California lighthouses in 2015. I was going to mention a couple of things before we open up for questions. Margie, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think you mentioned that the Point Montera Lighthouse and its original location was on Cape Cod. It was the Mayo's Beach Lighthouse in Cape Cod, and it was moved across the country. Did you mention that, Margie?
I did not mention that. No.
Okay. I can actually show up. Let me show a picture of it. Let me share my screen. Hopefully you can all see this. This is the lighthouse when it was on Mayo's Beach in Wellfleet on Cape Cod. And the keeper's house is still there. And there's like a foundation ring where the lighthouse was located. But the cast iron lighthouse in Wellfleet was dismantled and traveled across the country to Point Montera. It's the farthest I know of any lighthouse traveling from one coast to the other. I don't know if anything else like that. So let me show you something else here. Anacapa. I went to Anacapa in 2015. Here's a view from Anacapa Island looking across some of the other Channel Islands there. It's really spectacular. And
yeah, we were disappointed we didn't get to go, but after seeing how the winds were quite turbulent, when we went to Port Hueneme Lighthouse, we could see what the winds were like, so understood why it was canceled.
Yeah. And I'll just show you, we talked about the elephant seal colony at Piedras Blancas. Here's the official greeter that I saw when I was there. He's actually yawning, he's not yelling at me. That's how close. I mean, I'm using a zoom lens there, but still, you walk on a sidewalk or like right above the rookery, so you are really close. Yeah, that's right. And you can definitely see that it's an elephant seal, and not a sea lion. Yeah, they are. Just a lot of.
That's a great picture.
That's I don't know how many thousands of tons you're looking at there.
Yeah, right.
So I'm going to get one other thing I was going to mention. Let me get out of screen sharing now. Okay, there we are. I confused myself when I first went into screen sharing. You showed the LED light at one of the lighthouses. You call it a pancake light with the ring. Right. That was Port Hueneme, yes. Yeah, that's called a VLB 44, and those are really common at a lot of lighthouses these days. But they've now come up with a new generation of LED lights, a rotating LED beacon. First one was just installed at Oak Island in North Carolina. So it's still an LED light, but at least it has the sort of more traditional rotation instead of just a flash. And Cape Canaveral in Florida is getting one of those rotating LEDs too. So I just thought I'd mention that. I just found out about the Cape Canaveral one a couple of days ago.
That's pretty nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I know they're constantly improving them. We went to the Coast Guard station down in Virginia where they are researching these lenses all the time and making improvements.
yeah. So we can open things up for questions. I don't see any. Actually, somebody did ask a question in the chat. Does Point Pinos still have the display about the lighthouse's role during World War II? I was there in 2015, but I don't remember that specific display. Do you remember, Margie?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, I was going to say, I remember something, but yes, thanks for speaking up.
So I see who's speaking.
Nancy McDowell.
Okay. You're welcome to add
Great to
anything else.
Talk to you, Nancy. It was so good of you to honor us that day.
We love.
Yes, I met you too, Nancy, when I was there in 2015.
Yes.
It was a real pleasure. I loved visiting.
Where the city is in charge now, so we don't know what they're going to let us do when they'll let us open. So that's up to the state, I guess.
Oh, Pacific Grove is
right.
Totally in charge. Well, that's yeah.
When was the cupola removed from Piedras Blancas Lighthouse? I think you talked about that, Margie, about the earthquake. I don't remember off the top of my head.
It was 1948.
48, yeah.
Was the earthquake, and they immediately dismantled everything off of it. So,
so it's not just the lantern was removed, but the top part of the tower was removed.
Right.
It was kind of truncated.
Yeah.
So it was badly damaged. So we can, if anybody else has any questions you want to ask in the chat, go ahead and do that. We can also take questions verbally, but before I see somebody already has his hand up, Dimitri. So we'll take that question. But for everybody else, if you want to ask a question verbally, you can click on participants, and then you should have an option to raise your hand digitally. And if you do that, you'll go to the top of our list of who's here, and we can call on you. So Dimitri, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and unmute yourself, and you can ask your question.
Yes, I was wondering, did you not have a chance to visit the Old Point Loma Lighthouse in San Diego? I didn't see it on your list.
Yeah, that was the very last lighthouse we went to.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, that's a very nice lighthouse. Also, may I just mention that I may be one of the very few who was actually able to visit the Point Conception Lighthouse inside the lighthouse. While the lens was still in place, I had arranged for a member of the Coast Guard to gain permission to get there, because as you know, you have to go through private land.
Yeah.
And they got permission, and he said, look, we clean the glasses of the lighthouse every 3 or 4 weeks. If you show up at the hamburger stand at the bottom of the road by the beach, we'll pick you up and we'll go there. So yeah. He took me there. It was very, very, very nice of the Coast Guard. And it was a memorable visit of the lighthouse with the first order still in place. Also, I should note, I was looking for my pictures, but I couldn't find it. The outside repair was much better about 20 years ago when I was there. It's too bad they are letting it deteriorate. Thank you.
Yeah, you should feel very honored.
I do.
Yes.
I do.
And also you mentioned the burger place, the Halama Burger lunch there, the cafe, is very famous for its hamburgers. And we had lunch there and they were delicious.
It is, yes.
Yeah,
it's a memorable trip if one can make it.
Yes.
I just want to add to that. There was a movie shot at the Point Conception Lighthouse in the 1950s called The Monster of Piedras Blancas.
Right.
And it's supposed to be set at the Piedras Blancas Lighthouse. It was actually shot at Point Conception, and the Fresnel lens was still there at the time. So you see the actor playing the keeper by the lens and everything. But it's not a great movie by any means, but for lighthouse buffs, it's kind of fun to watch. I actually devoted an episode of the podcast to that, Monster of Piedras Blancas.
And all the arrangements that Dimitri made and that we made were with the Coast Guard, because right now the Coast Guard has the lighthouse Point Conception slated to be transferred to the Air Force. And once it transfers, we're not exactly sure if we're going to be able to get access to Point Conception anymore. So we're just waiting to see at this point. I was told, though, that the Air Force does have somebody, in fact, they contacted the Society a while back. They do want to have some interpretation, and it is possible that the Air Force might allow visitation. We just have to wait and see, though. But the access all of us have been granted has been through the cooperation of the Coast Guard and the Coast Guard Auxiliary. So we give them a thumbs up for helping us do that.
So let's see, at the moment, I don't see any other questions. So please, if you have any questions, go ahead.
Dave Rosenblum has a question.
Yeah, I was typing. I just have an interesting comment about Angel's Gate in the Los Angeles Harbor. We're members of the LA Maritime Museum, which is closed right now before renovation. But they have a World War II tug. And if you're a member, they take you on a 2-hour harbor tour of LA Harbor, and they go right up to Angel's Gate, literally within feet of it. And it's well worth the membership at the museum. I mean, the membership, an annual membership, may cost you $50, but the boat tour itself is fabulous. They go right by the Iowa and all the cruise ships that are there. They talk all about Terminal Island and the sardine industry and everything. It's fascinating. I would highly recommend it.
Yeah, and getting up close to Angel's Gate is really interesting thing to do because it's a Art Deco style lighthouse. It just had a huge renovation done to it, and it's just beautiful to get up and close to it. So like David says, if you're ever in the area, that's a great 2-hour cruise to take.
It's a very interesting harbor, and I didn't realize that during World War I, it was our main harbor on the West Coast. It was the biggest naval installation on the West Coast.
Hmm.
That was before San Diego was ever developed.
Yeah, I didn't get to see Los Angeles Harbor or Angel's Gate Lighthouse up close myself. I got that same distant view, but it looks like a really interesting
Well, the
site.
Maritime Museum is really, really, really interesting because it used to be a ferry terminal.
Mm-hmm.
Used to ferry workers over to Terminal. Terminal Island had a huge fishing industry for years, largely Portuguese immigrants who would fish the waters there and essentially got fished out by the World War II. But it was like the sardine capital of America.
Right.
If you want to see the Long Beach robot light, Long Beach Harbor offers a cruise that goes out there, and I think San Pedro has a cruise that goes by the Angel's Gate.
Yeah, I took a cruise that went fairly near the out of Long Beach that went fairly near the robot light. And it hadn't rained in months when I was there, but it rained during that cruise.
Well, you could also walk to the Angel's Gate Lighthouse if you wanted to brave the 2-mile walk or very chopped up waterfront there. Very few people do that.
Yeah.
Okay. So, any other questions or comments? We don't want to cut anybody off. If you have anything you'd like to say. I don't see anybody waiting. So Jeff, we have another one of these tour retrospective programs scheduled for next week. I believe it's going to be the Orkney and Shetland Islands with Skip Sherwood.
Hey, Jerry, I have a quick question for Margie.
Okay.
It sounds like the Mexico part of this trip was interesting. I think that might have been the first time the Society ever ventured south of the border to Mexico. We've gone to South America before, but not to Mexico. And aren't you planning to do something like that this year or next year again?
This year in November, we're going to go on the other side on the Yucatan Peninsula.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe
So we're going to
talk a
start
little
in
bit about
Texas
that.
and then head to Yucatan. And yeah, that's going to be an interesting tour.
So that's Yucatan covering what, Cozumel and Belize and that area? Where is it going to go?
No, just out of Cancun.
Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm. Dimitri?
And Merida and Cancun. So just at the top portion.
Lighthouses and like monuments, pyramids and things?
Yep. We got that scheduled in to go see a few Mayan ruins.
Cool. Sounds great. wanted to say something, Dimitri?
Yeah, I should probably know this, but will this retrospective be available for viewing offline?
Excellent question. I'm glad you asked. Yeah, as always, it'll be online probably within a couple of days. I just need to do a little bit of editing to it. Usually they're up by the beginning of the week. So it'll be on the USLHS website, uslhs.org, and on the YouTube channel. Go on YouTube and search for USLHS. And there's 30 or 40 or so, maybe 50 videos on there on that channel. So this will be added within a couple of days. An email will go out to everybody too, saying when it's available.
Yeah.
Rudy, you have a question?
Yes, I just wondered, did you have any problems getting into to see Point Hueneme? I know when my wife and I went there, and just after 9/11, they had a lockdown of the harbor facility there. And
Well, like I said, the Coast Guard guy in charge of the lighthouse, Norm Bundick, I'm not even sure if he's still there, but he made arrangements through security for us, and a couple of his Coast Guard men met us at the gate.
okay.
And so, yeah, they had warning we were coming, and everything went very smoothly. Well, at first, the guys didn't show up, so anyway, we managed to connect at the gate and went through pretty smoothly.
And normally,
we had to go to the mayor's office and get the mayor's permission, and he had to make a call to that site for us to get through the gate. So I'm just wondering.
Yeah, well, and we might have had to do the same if it wasn't for Norm.
Well, that's good for you. Yeah, and
Yeah.
also I want to mention the Santa Cruz Breakwater light is we built one just like it in Metropolis, Illinois, which is Metropolis Lighthouse on the Ohio River, and we use that as a model for the Metropolis Lighthouse, which is now an official Illinois state attraction. So,
It's a very sturdy lighthouse.
yeah, well, we don't have it that sturdy. Ours has a steel tower,
Okay.
and it's 30 feet high, and it's of course not as high as the other one, but it's dedicated to the fight against cancer. So if anybody's in Southern Illinois and you want to see a replica, if you will, of the Santa Cruz Breakwater, you can go to Metropolis.
All right.
Yeah. The one in Santa Cruz for a faux lighthouse is a really good looking one. Actually, it's an official aid to navigation, but as you explained, Margie, it's a recent lighthouse.
Yes.
And
Good
just
job, Margie. Really appreciate what you've done.
Thanks.
for looping back to Port Hueneme, the same auxiliary unit that runs the museum at Point Vicente, same family actually runs the Point Hueneme museum, and they do have hours normally that they're open. Usually it's once or twice a month. It's very, very sporadic. And they do have a website. So if anybody wants to visit Point Hueneme in the future, you should be able to if you conform to their schedule, or if you can't, then you can always contact them at Point Vicente at their interpretive center there, and they can make arrangements. But after 9/11, everything was closed.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised that you couldn't get through them. Yep.
I just want to mention that Susan in the chat says, a few years ago, my godson and I crawled over the Breakwater rocks to see the Angel's Gate Lighthouse up close. What an experience. That sounds like an interesting experience. I don't think that's a breakwater that's made to be easy for people to walk on. That must have been really difficult.
Yeah.
Dimitri
David,
said
you
it
have
was
another-
it's 2 miles long. So it's 4 miles round trip out to the LA Breakwater Light, and it's not an even walk by any means.
No.
Very
And
No,
it's also very uneven ground.
Yeah.
I don't recommend it for anybody over 30.
Okay.
You have
Jeff,
something else?
I'd like to make a comment about Anacapa. Anacapa is well worth going out there. It's the number of people who can go out per day is limited by
Yeah.
the federal government because the ecology out there is so
Unique.
fragile. But it's actually beautiful. And if you go out in the spring, you can see the giant coreopsis plants that are amazing. There's an outfit out of Oxnard called Island Packers.
Yep.
They are oceanographers, and the time to go is during when the whales migrate.
Mm.
And we went out one day. I've been out there a couple times. We went out there one day, and we had like 50 dolphins follow the boat. It was spectacular.
It
Awesome.
is
And the
amazing.
experience of being on the island, it's a difficult island to climb on.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
rocky, and it's a hard landing.
I remember when we got off the boat, you had to go up a whole bunch of stairs. I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah, you do.
but
That's
it's worth
that
it.
can be very tricky, especially if the sea isn't really very calm.
Yep,
Because
and that's where they
those
cancel.
stairs, yeah, that's
That's
very
Oh,
tricky.
yeah. We were
But it's
lucky.
well worth climbing up there. Also, you will end up with a whole bunch of pigeons on the island, and everything that comes with a whole lot of pigeons.
Yeah.
But that's their homing ground.
Yep.
Showing a picture here, a view of the lighthouse in Anacapa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were disappointed, but on the same token, we understood that it was quite dangerous to do it at high winds.
It would have been.
Okay. All right. I'm just looking to, it looks like, I think everybody's asked their questions they wanted to ask. It's probably time for us to wrap up for today. But again, we're planning another one of these next weekend, next Saturday, same time, same bat channel, with Skip Sherwood talking about the Orkney and Shetlands. Actually, Jeff, I think you're going to take part in that too, right? You were. That's how I understood it. We can talk about that later. You don't have to answer that right now.
I am taking part in that one. Yes.
You are? Okay. Yeah.
I have noticed you have not shown retrospectives of many tours within the United States. Any
We're starting to do
plans?
those lately.
Sorry?
Yep. We started the process with our international trips, but we're moving now into doing retrospectives of domestic trips. And we're also going to start doing, when we can put them together, now there wouldn't be retrospectives, there'll be actual
Preview.
programs about tours that are upcoming as well. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
so I think this might have been our second domestic tour. I mean, we had Northern California. Was there another domestic one besides last week, Jeremy? I don't think.
I think that's been it. Yeah.
Yeah, so these are the first two domestic ones we've covered. So we'll start hitting more domestic tours as we move forward.
Okay.
So, Margie, I don't know if you want to add anything before we sign off.
No, I just thanks for all the questions, and it's great to see some of the folks. And keep in mind that we've got lots of good tours coming up this year. Thank goodness. And we do have our policy for keeping everybody safe during COVID. And so you can read that online. But things are getting better. Tours are coming back.
Absolutely. Jeff, anything to add?
No, thanks, Margie, for taking part of your Saturday to do this. And thanks, everybody, for joining us. We really appreciate your support. And Jeremy?
Yep. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, everybody, for attending. We'll see you again soon. Take care. Stay safe. Be good.
Thank you very much.
Margie. Thank